Hello everyone, this is Arthur Ross. I play the viola, and this is episode 4 of the new video series. All right, phrase 1 of the exercise in E flat major by Alessandro Rolla. Okay, now what? I mean, I've just played this first phrase with some degree of skill. Now what? What next? I mean, what exactly are we trying to do? Like, what's the goal here? I mean, are we trying to communicate something? Commune with the divine? Show off my performance prowess? Like, what's the goal? What are we trying to do? I mean, this is a critical questions, but we don't talk about them a lot. It's just kind of assumed. I mean, you play the music and the music does what it does. But that's not good enough when you actually have to perform the music. So let's start with what Rolla asks for, or at least what Rolla is suggesting. The very basics. He wants to start loud, get softer, and then get loud again. All right, let's try that and see what it suggests. Okay, let's do that again. Now, Rolla doesn't indicate precisely where he wants, like, he doesn't indicate precisely how loud he wants to start, or how soft he wants you to get, or how loud he wants you to get at the end, and where the end actually is. Like, he's a little ambiguous and all that. So I guess it's up to me. Let's try a couple different things. Okay, something else. That time I changed precisely where the softest part was. All right, something else. Okay, it could be any number of things, and I'm not certain exactly what I might want it to be. So let's go on to the second phrase and see if that suggests something with the first phrase. All right, second phrase. There's a lot of stuff going on with the second phrase. So we'll come back to the first phrase for a second. I want to talk about this second phrase. I'll play it again. There's all sorts of stuff going on. There seems to be some bottom notes, middle notes, top notes, all happening at the same time, differently than the simplicity of the first phrase. The first phrase were just single notes. But now the second phrase has all of this extra stuff. So part of what Roland's doing is something called multiple stopping. String instruments like the viola are really designed to play one note at a time. But composers, in order to be fancy and to express different kinds of things, will often ask a string player to play more than one note at a time well, I'll show you. There are multiple lines or multiple parts happening at the same time. First, here is the top line or the melody of the second phrase. I mean, that's the melody. But there's other stuff going on as well. There's a bass line which happens at the same time. There's even some middle notes that go in to kind of flesh out those two lines. So when you play them together, this is what you get. So my job as a performer is to figure out the best way to communicate all of that stuff going on all at the same time. What notes to emphasize, what notes to de-emphasize, when, how to place them. So what I've been trying to do is to emphasize the bottom notes for the first part, and then the melody when it begins to move. To varying degrees of success. So back to the initial question, what does this second phrase suggest about how the first phrase should be played? So remember, again, the first phrase was second phrase. There's a concept in music called antecedent consequent. Phrases, like sentences, go together. You can string them together to create a more complex thought. And so one sentence will inform another. One phrase will inform the way another goes. So with the initial request of rolla to start loud, get softer, and get loud again, what does the second phrase suggest you do with that decrescendo, crescendo, loud, soft, loud? What does the second phrase suggest in terms of how to play that decrescendo, crescendo in the first phrase? Let's try a few things. Let's see. Okay, let's try something else. The first phrase has a couple of parts. Actually, it's 3 parts. That's the first part of the first phrase. It's the second part of the first phrase. And that's the third part of the first phrase. A question, what do you do with the third part of that first phrase? And does that affect how the second phrase goes? So to carry that, get that crescendo, the getting louder part, through the end of the first phrase, that has a consequence to the second phrase, the consequent phrase. What if I do it differently? The first phrase differently. What does that mean to the second? By altering exactly what I do or how loud that third part of the first phrase is, that affects how it affects the lead up. It affects the pitch into the second phrase, and therefore what it makes sense to do with the second phrase. To illustrate, I'm going to pitch into the second phrase one way and then actually play the second phrase in another way. A little bit out of tune, but the second phrase leapt out of proportion to the pitch of the first phrase. So as the performer, you're trying to figure out what the sentences are trying, not only what the sentences are saying in and of themselves, and not only what Rolla is asking you to say with each of the sentences, but how the pitch of one leads into the next inevitably. So as the performer, it's my job to sort of work out those details. What exactly does each phrase say? And more importantly, how am I saying what each phrase is supposed to say and what that means to what comes after it? All right. Questions to ponder. Let's play phrase 1 and 2 and then move on. Okay, so those are phrases 1, 2, and 3. Now remember, phrase 1 and phrase 2 are both 2-bar phrases, and phrase 3 is a 4-bar phrase. I talk about the phrase and form structure of this piece in episode 2 of the series. So if you're interested in that, go back to episode 2 and that will answer some of those questions. So all right, so here's here is phrase 3. All right, so there's all that double stopping and stuff again. This stuff. All that stuff. Obviously, that has to sound effortless, and I'm working on making that sound effortless. But it's also a bit of fanciness that Rolla is asking for to round out not only the last phrase, not only this third phrase, but the first 2 as well. So it becomes an ending, at least it feels that way to me. It seems like an ending to all 3 of the phrases. So, one more time. By the way, the third little bit of phrase 1, it suggests to me something a little bit different than actually what Rolla asked for. It suggests to me, instead of a explosion into phrase 2, instead of an explosion, it suggests a aperitif, something elegant, more of a flourish at the end, which then inevitably leads the pitch into phrase 2 is consequently affected. All right, so all three. All right, so lots of things to think through and lots of things to decide on. All right, I think this is good for episode 4 in terms of time. I'm going to play these first phrases again, and then as teaser for the next episode, some of the following phrases. And maybe you can think about what it makes sense to you, what I do with each of these phrases, the pitches into each one of them. Thanks for watching. This is episode 4 of the new video series. Hit the like or the subscribe button. Share this with people. And until next time, thanks for watching. Take care.